Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience, a motivational podcast relating to the insurance brokerage industry and business in general. And now, here's Bill Levinson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. First off, and most important, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. If you're in the insurance space, great. I know we have a lot of estate planning attorneys, CPAs, anyone in the financial world. We truly appreciate everyone taking the time, and I know you'll walk away with some great nuggets today. That's the goal of every podcast episode. So again, take out pen and paper, jot down notes, questions. We want to hear from you. In fact, if you leave a comment on your favorite podcast channel, whatever you prefer listening to, or if this is on YouTube or through our Facebook or social media pages, leave a comment about this episode. I'll send you the free IUL prospecting book on us. So please, at the end of the day, we create these episodes for you all. So my goal is to make them bigger and better, especially for the new year. So, being that it is the first episode for 2021, this is one of my favorite episodes because of our guest speaker. And the reason why is because, number one, this man has had significant growth over the last 12 months during and the middle of a pandemic. So that to me is so impressive. We have 19,000 plus agents all over the country. And what's amazing to me, it's like the old 80-20 rule. 20% of our agents are doing unbelievable right now. And, of course, the rest of them are pretty much stagnant, or some are, unfortunately, going in the opposite direction. And I'm hoping as you listen to this episode that you can pick up some new techniques, some strategies that will help you in your day-to-day practice, which will hopefully put you on the 20% side, right? We all want to be on the evolving and growing side of things. So that's, again, the goal for today's podcast episode. So we have Mr. Pradeep Udo, and let me just tell you real quick, without giving away the secret sauce, this man has a technology background, okay? He started also on the career side, which he's going to share. I don't want to take away any of his thunder. But what's so interesting to me, and he'll be the first one to tell you, he's not like a typical salesman. Okay, he knows the tech side like the back of his hand. No one knows products and carriers like he does. But what's so interesting is these days with the internet and social media, everyone is exposed. So the old, looking bigger and better than you typically are, or trying to paint this pretty picture and how great you are, everything and everyone comes to the surface, okay, especially with the internet and how relevant search engines are, and articles and social media pages. So his story is so genuine and so 100% fact and black and white that it just goes to show you that when being yourself, being honest, okay, and knowing the products and helping the clients, when you walk and talk that path and you have the client's best interest at heart, it pays off in the long run. And he is proof of exactly that story. So that's another reason why I'm so excited about this. So first off, Pradeep, thank you so much for joining us. We truly appreciate you taking the time. So thank you.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yep. No, of course. So, we have agents that come to us all the time and they say, Bill, if you can give me a list of your top agents and their phone numbers, I want to pick their brain and see what's working for them. Well, as we know, there's not many successful agents that are just going to say, oh, yeah, no problem. Give whoever it is my phone number and I'll spend 2 hours on a Tuesday afternoon with them. No, they're not going to. Unfortunately, they're very busy, and unless you're in their hierarchy, okay, and they have skin in the game, they're not going to take the time. So I feel like it's my job to handpick some of our top agents and agencies and get them on the podcast so I can pick their brain for an hour and then share all of that special sauce with you all. So that's the name of the game for my podcast, and that's what we're doing today. So what I'm also going to mention is Pradeep is obviously from and based out of Massachusetts, and he works with some great agents that are in his downline or his agency, so to speak, and then he also works in the retail space. So he kind of wears two hats. And if you think that you guys might be a good fit and, hey, I want to talk to Pradeep about possibly working together, no problem. Just let me know. I will tell you some of his agents are doing as good as he is, especially during a pandemic. So whatever training techniques he's sharing or product info or illustrations he's running, it's working. Okay, I promise you that, because you have to remember we're on the other side of it and we're seeing the numbers firsthand. What I also think is interesting is Pradeep gets the technology side. We're in a very dinosaur type of industry, and we're very behind the eight ball when it comes to e-apps or drop tickets or, even online brochures. Okay, I remember years ago, it took the companies, 10, 15, 20 years to even say, hey, we're not sending out a paper kit anymore. Okay, we're going to have a PDF attachment now. Okay, that was like a big deal for the life insurance side. E-apps, drop tickets. I remember even 8, 9 years ago sitting at a NAFA meeting, and we literally had about 7 of us on a panel, and we had probably 50 or 60 insurance companies in the audience. And I was sitting next to Bill Atlee, the founder of iPipeline, and we were both saying how important it is to have an e-app to grow, right, in the future in this industry. And some of the carriers looked at us like we had 3 heads. They thought we were nuts. Okay, and then you fast forward to today, and if a carrier doesn't have an e-app, it's like driving a horse around New York City, okay? It just doesn't happen. So Pradeep is firsthand. He gets that, and he understood this years ago, and that's probably one of the reasons why he has grown his business tremendously during this pandemic when everyone is forced, right, to be home, and B, to not have these face-to-face meetings in a living room at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night, or these face-to-face seminars, right? E-apps, drop tickets, technology is key to grow your business, especially in 2021 during a pandemic. So Pradeep has done that, and he gets it, okay, which I unfortunately have to say most agents don't understand how this all works. But if you want to make it and survive, you have to get your hands around the basics with technology, a website, social media, so important. Okay, I want to shift gears for a minute and start this interview. Pradeep, real quick, if you want to just take us back, how it all began for you on a personal side, on the business side, how you wound up in this crazy business. Do you want to go over that, give everyone the 100-foot overview?
Oh, absolutely. So basically, so how far back am I going from birth?
Let's go as far back as you feel comfortable going, buddy.
So I was born in Guyana in South America, but my ethnic background is Indian. I moved here to the U.S. when I was 17, and I did the hard work thing. Go to school, get good grades. I got a degree in IT from Northeastern University in Boston. And then after, some years of working in IT, I was doing quite well. And then I hit 30 and I started thinking, okay, this is not how I see my life going. It's like I was traveling a lot. You have deadlines to meet. You have a boss breathing down your neck. And I just thought, I need to look at some other options. And so I started exploring. I always had an interest in finances. And so I thought, well, I don't really know a lot of filthy rich people that would have money to invest. And also, if you're brand new, I mean, who's going to really hand you hundreds of thousands of dollars to go invest? So I figured the best option would probably be the life insurance route. And given that, everyone's going to die at some point. So I figured life insurance is a product that everyone's going to need. So I walked into, they're one of the largest life providers. I think they've since exited, but so I walked into the local office and they hired me. I think back then it's like, if you were breeding, you could get a job.
Pradeep, this was about what, 20 years ago, roughly?
Yeah, this was, I think, 2001, if I remember.
Okay.
So I'd actually quit my IT job, and I had stashed money away. So I knew going in it's going to be a long haul, and it'll be difficult because one, there was no salary, as everyone knows if you're in the career insurance field. So I had stashed some money away from my IT career, and so I had money to live on, and I didn't have any mouths to feed, so that made things easier. And so I joined and started going through the training program, and the usual stuff they used to do back then, get on the phone, make phone calls. And the office I was a part of, they used to have this like Monday night you would call. They'd give you a list of, what they call them, orphan leads. So you would get on the phone and call on Monday night. And the logic behind the Monday night calling was the men are home watching football, so you'll catch them if you call between, when Monday Night Football used to be a thing back then.
That's funny.
So I mean, I hated it because here I am, I'm brand new, I'm calling people that already had insurance, that hated insurance to begin with. They don't know who their agent is, so these are all orphaned leads, and so you call, and then I'm calling some country area in Massachusetts, and they've never seen someone with my name, so I'm trying to say my name on the phone to someone who doesn't know what that is. And so it's quite challenging. But one of the things I started to do with their marketing department, they had this thing called Met Direct, where you could buy a list and do direct mail. This was before email was, a thing. I think email was there, but it wasn't as popular as a marketing tool. So I would, buy the list, you upload it, and then you pick a mailing piece that you wanted to send out. And so I'd met with the MetLife marketing people, and they suggested. So initially, I started marketing broadly. So everyone and anyone I would market to. And then they advised me to focus. And so they said, you want to find people that you have something in common with, or some sort of characteristics where you fit into a group. And so I thought, okay, so let's target the Indian crowd in Massachusetts. While I wasn't from India and I didn't speak any Indian languages, my ethnic background was, so I had that going for me, and then my name is very much Indian. So that's how I started. So I started targeting, buying these mailing lists, and then uploading them. And so I would say, okay, give me everyone who's of Indian descent from this part of Massachusetts to this part of Massachusetts, and then we do a mailer. And we could drill down on, do they have kids? Do they have a mortgage? How much do they make? So essentially, it's like Facebook, but back then it was on paper. So same kind of targeting that Facebook does or LinkedIn does, but it was paper mail. So that really took off. And so I, but crazy story, my first year. So when I left IT, I was making over 100 a year. My first year at MetLife, with no real salary and having no clients and starting from scratch, my first year, I made like 20 grand.
Oh, jeez.
So it's quite and the other thing I had to sort of pay attention to was, a lot of family pressure in terms of, I don't think anyone wakes up, probably except for you, Bill, because you grew up with this. I don't think any parent says, "Oh, I wish my kids sold insurance." It's not a career that anyone aspires to. I think generally, and not to stereotype, but I think no one's thinking.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right, Pradeep.
And then on top of that, you've got like the whole Indian background, and everyone's like, you have an engineering degree or an IT degree. What the hell are you doing selling insurance? It ranked right up there with used car salesman. And so
true.
To their credit, my mom was more, I think her reaction was more, not so much anything about me and what I thought. It was more of, what's the family going to think? And that's like the extended family, it's like the other cousins who had, good jobs and stuff like that. And then, so there was that. But I mean, my dad, he just said, listen, if you think it'll work, go for it. And that's how I said, okay, I have his okay. As long as I have one of the two parents okayed it, then I'll go for it.
I love it.
So they kind of sort of supported me for the first year when I was making $20,000. but I had money stashed away from my previous job, so I wasn't starving, and it helped that I didn't have anyone to feed. I didn't have any kids or anything. So that worked out. So after like 2, 3, 4 years, everything was up and up. And in the 5th year, I needed to, usually at that 5-year point, if you work for like a MetLife, New York Life, Mass Mutual, etc., I think you start thinking at that point, do I really want to stick around, or do I want to go independent? And one of the things I had a problem with was the constant losing cases to clients or to other companies when I'm talking to clients, because all I had was MetLife. And back then, MetLife didn't really have a Crump. They had a partnership with someone like Crump, I think, but you were limited to which carriers you could offer. And to me, that was a problem and also the management that I had, obviously their compensation is based on you pushing MetLife's products, and I didn't really care to do that. So, and I realized that's how the system works, and that's what I had to do to get the training. So I went along with it. I mean, they weren't crap products. They were good products, but, sometimes if a customer says, I want the cheapest term policy, I couldn't offer it to them if MetLife was not that product. So after about 5 years, I made that decision to leave. They had tried to save me, keep me there. They put me in their management training program. And this is funny because I think, as you mentioned, I'm not really a salesperson. I'm more of these are the facts. I'll provide you all the details. You make a decision and get back to me. I do not chase people. I don't constantly cold call and constantly call people to remind them, hey, you need to buy this, or have you made a decision yet? I've never done that. So when they put me in management, my job was to build my own unit, and you have to recruit people. And around this, I think this was in 2000, right before 2008, so 2006, 7, 8, in that range. There were a lot of layoffs, and I would have people coming in for interviews that had 3 kids and a mortgage, and they're starting from scratch. And my first question was, if you were looking at this career as some sort of a job that'll allow you to feed your kids and pay your mortgage, I don't think it's going to work right now, because it's going to be a long first, second, third year. So my my first year of interviewing people to build my own unit at MetLife, I interviewed about 160 people, and I did not recruit one because I was just too bloody honest and upfront. So, I just couldn't say to people, yeah, it's great. If you come here, you're going to make 250,000, because that's what some of the folks would do.
You know what? And Pradeep, let me just say real quick, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but exactly what you just said, how you didn't bring one person over, that's exactly the reason why you're so successful today, and your clients see through that. They know that. The agents that work with you see through that. They know when they call you, when they email you, and they have a question on a product or what is your advice, or they're getting the 110% facts and the truth. And that's why you are in the spot you are today, right? So I just wanted to point that out, that I loved hearing that. So, all right, continue. I just wanted to say that real quick.
Yeah. So, after a while, I just thought, I can't stick around at MetLife if I want to do what's right for my customers. And part of that is I think when you and I'm going to make some generalizations, but I think when you're an immigrant coming to this country, you work your ass off to get ahead. And I have never been given anything. When we first came here, we literally sold our house, and when we converted, so I was 17 at the time. When we converted to U.S. dollars, we essentially landed in America as a family of 5 with $1,400 U.S. dollars, literally. It was a lot of hard work to get to that point of, finishing school and everything else. So when I was in school, I pretty much worked. I worked 2 jobs plus I was in school. And one of the things I did, and if there's anyone, any young kids listening to this, there are a lot of companies where instead of going into student loan debt to fund a degree, there are companies, a lot of companies, if you find some of the brand name companies like any big company, they have tuition reimbursement as part of their benefits package. Because I graduated from Northeastern. It took me 6 years to finish my degree because I was working full time while doing it. I graduated with $2,000 in debt. I didn't get any scholarships, but all of my tuition was paid for by the companies I worked for. And it's not something they carved out just for me. It's a benefit they offer to most employees. As long as I think the companies I worked for, as long as you got a B or better, so you would pay for the course up front. You just needed to score a B or better on the finals, and they would reimburse you up to, I think it was like $3,000 or $5,000 per semester or something like that. So it could be done. But anyway, fast forward to 2006 or 7, I think. So I made that decision to leave MetLife and just go independent. And one of the things that triggered that was I started to see a lot of changes at MetLife. They were merging offices left and right, at least in Massachusetts. I don't know what was happening across the country. But I was chatting with a client who said to me, hey, MetLife is in India, and they're launching this online term policy where you don't have to talk to a broker. You could go on the MetLife Indian website and buy life insurance without talking to an agent. And the first thing that came to my mind was, this is coming here, and it's coming here soon, and I need to get the hell out and be independent.
Wow. I didn't even know this, Pradeep.
Yes, and exactly I didn't know for a fact that it's coming here, but I felt what they're doing in some of these other countries, they're sort of piloting stuff and testing it out. And then if it works, they're just going to unleash it, here.
Of course.
And I mean, this was back in 2007, so I didn't have any great insight. I was just going off of what I saw. So I just thought, okay, I'm out. So the first thing I did, I reached out. So there's a website called Fiverr, Fiverr. They've been around since then, but what they are is if you need any kind of graphics work done, or if you need a website built, or if you need some of these other stuff done, you could find people all over the world that are willing to do it for super cheap. So you post your job you need done. So I went on there and I posted, and I learned this from my IT days, and that's how I knew about it. So I posted that I want a website built, and my budget is $400. I wanted to have it done locally, but every local builder I spoke to in Massachusetts, they were asking me for like $3,000, $4,000. I didn't have that kind of money back then. So I found some guy in Calcutta on the web. I don't know him. I've never been to India up until that point. And so he said he'll do it for $300. And then I had another guy in Russia who said he could do it for $450. I'm like, I'm going to go with the cheaper one. So I paid the guy in Calcutta $350. He put up a one-page website. And I had the website built, ready to go, and I had done a lot of Googling, and I started, I guess, are you familiar with Term for Sale and CompuLife?
Oh, yeah. Yep, we have it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I found, while Googling, I found CompuLife. And so I realized, I could buy this software and put it on my website where customers could run their own quotes, and then they just contact me. And so I paid, I think it was like $300 for the software at that point. So I plugged that into the website, and I was ready to go. Once the website was ready, I went into MetLife. I said to my boss, here's my resignation letter. I have to go. I can't stick around. And I appreciate, all the training, and I don't mean to, I'm not bashing MetLife in any way. It's just the system in general is kind of skewed towards management and, not doing, and it's not just MetLife. I think it's the same thing with a lot of these companies that are career shops. It's all sell, hit your number. And, you could only offer one product usually. So I gave my notice and I just left, and I got into my car and I emailed my guy in Calcutta and I said, please launch the website.
I love this.
And that was it. So that was in 2007. I mean, I've since redesigned the website over the years, but and what I noticed was MetLife actually told me, so I had to sign this massive separation agreement that I can't do this, I can't do that. And pretty much anyone who's listening, if you've worked for a career shop, you know the drill. So I couldn't talk to my clients. And also, when you're there, you don't know what's outside, right? For the longest while, I had no clue that I could have sold non-MetLife products and not worry about it. But I was thinking I want to not break any rules, and I was just being a good person, just follow their guidelines. But they didn't own me. But they make you feel like they did. So that was something I realized after I left. And because after I left, I was able to get a MetLife contract as an independent. I'm like, damn it. I wish I knew I could have done this prior.
Yeah, probably at a higher commission too, I'm sure.
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah.
Because I remember, MetLife was charging me for, I remember at one point, so like the first couple of years you didn't get, they gave you a small salary. But after so many years, they start charging you rent for your cubicle. I was paying almost $900 a month just to be employed by MetLife.
You know, Pradeep, real quick, I just feel like that is a great story, by the way. And so many agents are either going through this or have went through this. And I feel like, and again, not to bash MetLife at all, I feel like it kind of served its purpose, for the training routine. You cut your teeth there, and then you obviously outgrew it in a short amount of time. But I feel like if you can make it, after year 1, year 2, and they still want you to stay, like that's a win right there, because it's like that same 80-20 rule. Most of these agents that cut their teeth there at MetLife or a career shop, most do not make it through after that 1 year where you said, you have to really decide, is this for you, is it not? At that point, most people don't stay, unfortunately. So, but I think that it's such a typical story, what you're saying right now. Most people don't talk about it, but I'm so glad that you shared this, because, we can all learn from this. We have agents that just got licensed that are on these podcasts that haven't even started yet. And I always tell them, and friends of mine even, that want to get into the industry, I'll always say, go start with like a career shop, cut your teeth, and then figure out if this is for you. And if it is, great, we'll set you up on the independent side and you'll be off to the races. And so that's exactly what you're talking about. I love to hear this.
Yeah, I think, and again, it's not that it was bad. It was just interesting. And I think if you are now starting out, for most people, you can't really afford to pay that money for rent. So I think those are some of the things that drove me out of there. But I mean, I'm going to be, I don't think I'm, not to sound like I'm bashing them, but I am forever grateful for the training that they provided. It taught me a lot of things that were good, and also a lot of things that I shouldn't do. So it was overall, it was a good experience. I met some great people there. But yeah, so when I left, so since 2007 I left, and so I've been COVID ready since 2008, because since then I haven't seen clients in person. So it's kind of, using WebEx and just pretty much everything online. And that was the other thing, You
said, Pradeep, real quick, you said since 2008 you haven't seen clients in person?
Right. And maybe one or two locally, but, that's when I started to get licensed in all the other states. And,
wow.
It just convened. And I think as with the internet and everything else, I remember I went to this meeting, or it's like a seminar thing at Ohio National some years back. And, it was like a marketing session, and they were going up around the room talking about, what do you do for marketing? How do you get your clients? That kind of thing. And when I said I don't see clients in person, some of the older agents in the room almost bit my head off. Because because their whole thing is, how are you building relationships? How are you have to be friends with your clients. I'm like, no. I have my friends. I'm not looking. I don't need to go to my client's kid's soccer game and pretend I like them. It's a transaction. This whole nonsense about, know your customer in terms of, building a relationship with them. To me, because I'm not a salesperson, to me, that is basically being sleazy and pretending you like people so you could get in their checkbook.
Pradeep, that's 1985 thinking.
It is.
What you just said. In a nutshell, that's 1985. It
is. And it's because I remember going through some of the old training sessions at different companies over the years. And, they do that whole, if you go to let's say some company, I'm not going to name names anymore before I get sued. But let's say a company has one of their regional meetings, right? And you show up, you're now starting out, and they bring out some heavy hitter to talk about their journey, or talk about how this massive sale that they closed last week. And they're talking about shit like, well, we run in the same circles. I met this guy at the golf course. I've never golfed. I've never touched a golf club in my life. So that whole country club scene is not my thing. It just doesn't work for me. So it's kind of, it was interesting going to those meetings, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, where the hell am I going to run into someone that's making that kind of money? So I'm just going to make this about a transaction. And so when I left MetLife, the first thing I did, I had zero interest in mutual funds and annuities and that kind of thing. I can't believe I survived MetLife for 5 years, and I sold 2 whole life policies and 1 VUL and 1 variable annuity. And those are all to my relatives who wanted those products. I just wasn't comfortable with them. And so I kind of gravitated towards term insurance, some GULs, and disability. And that was it for me. And I remember there was one lady who opened an IRA with me when I was first at MetLife, and she put $500 in, and she would call me literally every week if the market went up, if it went down, and I just started thinking, this is $500. I can't imagine if you've got $100,000 with someone and the market's going up and down, what's happening. So when I left MetLife, the first thing I did was terminated my securities license in 2007-8. I figured that's it. I'm just going to do fixed products only. I don't need to be sued. I'm not interested in ruining anyone's retirement plan. So, I mean, hats off to the people that do insurance and investments. It's just not my thing. I sleep better at night, just focusing on what I know. And, but yeah, I think going back to, some of these seminars that you go to or the regional meetings. And so, if you were a young person now starting out, you don't have that kind of a network. And I did not find any of those chats motivating, like some guy talking about he closed a deal for, $100,000 premium a month or whatever. And I'm sitting here going, I don't know those kinds of people. Where am I going to go look for them? So this is not really helping me mentally in terms of trying to motivate me to work. So I think their motivation, when you said like 1985 stuff, I think that's how I find those. And that's why I've never been interested in pep talks and motivation speeches and those kinds of things. That's why I've never been to any of those MDRT things. I've never been, I don't get it. I mean,
Pradeep, let me ask you real quick. I don't mean to interrupt, but I think it's great for the audience. So I understand what you're saying, and I'm so glad you're being so upfront with everyone. So what was your approach then? If you're saying, hey, I'm not going to be at the country club, I'm not going to go to my best client's kid's soccer game on a Sunday afternoon. So what was your approach that then worked for you? You don't have to give the secret sauce, but just give everyone the little overview of the lane that you took instead.
Yeah. So I started, so before the internet became more prevalent, I started doing a lot of the direct mail stuff, but very targeted direct mail. And also what I would do is find little organizations that had events and sponsor it for so you could put, back then, I don't know what it's like now, but you could put a little, you'd spend $500 for a year and put an ad on some organization's website, like some engineering association or some doctor association. You put a little ad on their website. Or one of the things I did, and again, I don't know if this is even legal now, but back then it was okay. I went and I do a lot of disability insurance. And one of the things I did to get started with that is I went to, I had a client who was his daughter was a resident at Boston University Medical. And he had bought her a disability policy. And then she said, oh, my classmates are also interested. So I bought them beer and pizza, and there's like 20 soon-to-be doctors in a room. And all I did was I spoke to them for like 10 minutes about disability and why it's important. And that was it. And I just mingled with them a little bit, and they drank and ate, and they stayed in touch. And I stayed in touch with them. And then they started, being scattered all over the country for their fellowships or whatever, and where they get their jobs, and they're moving from state to state. And that pizza and beer cost me like $200 for those folks. And that was the best return I ever had on an investment, because I stayed in touch with them once a quarter. I simply sent an email. So I had it's sort of like, what's this, constant contact, or one of those marketing things. So I would send them
like a basic CRM,
right,
CRM tool.
Right. So just send that out once a quarter. And when they were ready to buy disability, I was the first one they thought about. And with the disability comes, term life insurance. So, and that's sort of how it really got started. But then I'm always doing stuff in terms of, whether it's, some Facebook ads or some LinkedIn ads. I'm always throwing a little bit. So that's the thing, right? If you're now starting out, you're not going to have the same budget as someone who's established. So you want to pick your spots and hope it works. And you just kind of, there's nothing that beats a personal introduction. And I'm, right now, I would say about 70% of my business comes from referrals from existing clients. And I think part of it is because when I talk to them, I don't show them one company's product. And this comes back to being independent and not pushing, one company's policies. So when I send them a proposal, I send them for term insurance, they get 10 quotes from me on one sheet. And you guys have the tools, on the Levinson website. But
yep.
But I've always done that even before I partnered with you guys. But just show them 10 different options, because you never know. Someone might say, okay, I want this. Because one of the things, because a lot of my clients are immigrant physicians, and it's not just, folks of Indian descent. I have a lot of Chinese, and I don't speak any of those languages. So I have Chinese. I have pretty much everyone. And I've targeted the visa crowd, as I call them. So like, people here on H-1B visas, J-1 visas. The average broker who's never been an immigrant generally would have no clue about how some of these visas work and what their restrictions are. And I run into so many clients who come to me and say, hey, I applied with this company and they declined me. I'm like, well, if you had a broker who knew what they were doing, they wouldn't have put you with that company, because rule number one, that company doesn't write policies for that type of a visa. So I think what I would say, like, people starting out, is you need to figure out a target of, who you want to go after. Just basic target marketing stuff. And I've tried a bunch of different targets, and I would say probably 2 out of 10 would work. The rest of them are going to fail. And I don't mean to sugarcoat it. There's been a lot of failures along the way. And when I say failure, I mean I look at them as learning experiences, not failures per se. um, at the end of the day, it's money you're throwing at things that didn't work out. So from a financial perspective, it's a failure. But um, what I would say is don't go into significant debt to do this. And that's one of the advantages I had. And I see people joining some of these, I don't know, what are they called? Multi-level insurance schemes.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of these right now. Yes.
I'm not going to name them, but I see some on YouTube, and I see some of the famous, like they're all partnering with some famous football player or athlete, and they're funding them, and they're doing the stupid Vegas trips, and they're bringing out their fancy cars and whatnot. I mean,
yeah.
I'm one of those people, like, I don't waste my money on things like fancy cars. The fanciest car I've ever had is a Volkswagen. So I'm kind of most of my money goes into marketing. So now I'm doing a lot of Facebook. I haven't had as much luck with LinkedIn, I would say. But Facebook is interesting. But at the end of the day,
I think that's the best bang for the buck right now. Are the Facebook ads?
Yeah, but I think what I'm noticing is nothing beats a referral.
Yes.
And the fact that if you're independent and you're representing more than one company, when you send that spreadsheet out to the customer, they look at it and go, you know what, this guy did his homework. I'm not going to need to go shop around. He's doing the shopping for me.
Great point.
So there's no point if I'm a customer to still go look to see what Northwestern is selling or New York Life is selling. Because what I do, using my CompuLife desktop software, I do quote. When I run a quote with 10 companies, I add New York Life and Northwestern on purpose because I want people to see how expensive they are compared to everyone else. Because I look at, and I do that because my audience because it's a large Asian crowd, meaning Indian, Chinese, Vietnamese, etc. New York Life does a lot of advertising to those markets. They know New York Life because in my house we have the Indian package on TV, so we get like all the Indian news channels and stuff. And I would say constantly there's commercials from New York Life on those TV shows, and targeting the population in the U.S. And so a lot of those folks would start with, do you do New York Life? And I go, no, but I can tell you how much they'll charge you for the same thing that I could sell you. And you could decide if you want New York. If you must have New York Life, I have friends at New York Life. I could introduce you and feel free to buy it from them. But I cannot sell it to you. But I'll show you the price difference. And it's a crazy price difference.
Oh, sometimes it's double. Sometimes it's double. It's unreal.
Yeah, right. So, so I think spreadsheeting, I know a lot of people go, oh, you shouldn't spreadsheet. I'm like, yeah, I've been spreadsheeting since 2007, and I'm quite proud of it, actually, because it's worked great.
Pradeep, let me say a couple things real quick, and we're a little off topic here, and it's such great information that I don't care. I love it. I love the road we're going down, and this is so valuable. But let me just say a couple things here, and if you can all see like the common theme here with Pradeep. So he says, he sees maybe 1 or 2 clients a year. This is starting back in 2007, 2008, right? So then look at his take on technology and spreadsheeting. By the way, we have CompuLife. It's available for free for all Levinson agents. We also have the iPipeline quoting engine. We have the Agency Automator CRM tool that Pradeep's talking about. We have the website, right, that he mentioned that he used. You actually hired someone on Fiverr. We have all of those things available, turnkey, at no charge. Okay, so my point here, though, you talk about, the theme of this episode. It's, growing your business by 50-60% during a pandemic. But take down this keynote here. Think about this. Look at his mindset back in 07, 08, 2012, 15, 18, 19, and then going into this pandemic, he was already there. So his business and mindset was set up perfectly for going into 2020. And not only did this not affect Pradeep's business, but his business grew even more. And you ask yourself, well, how and why did that happen? Because he was already, call it pre-pandemic proof. Obviously, he didn't know this was coming, but he was set up perfectly for what happened in this world. And not only did he sustain, but grew his business during a very tough time, which we're still in today. So if that's not proof enough for you all to start leveraging these tools and building a brand online and using WebEx or GoToMeeting, I don't know what is. And that's why I think this is so important. And by the way, in Pradeep, he's not, a typical middle tier agent of ours. Pradeep is one of our top agencies in the country. Okay, so whatever he's doing is working. I promise you that, because we see the applications here. We see the numbers coming in. But I just think it's so important. And then when you mentioned, how, seeing someone face-to-face at the golf course and building a relationship like that, it's not that doesn't work, okay? Yes, of course that still works. If you're in a networking group and everybody knows you as the local insurance guy or girl, of course that works, okay? But for Pradeep, he took a different exit, right? And he built his business online. He used all these target marketing channels and tried all these different avenues. Oh, this worked, this didn't. I'm going to go after this niche, this didn't. And obviously he was successful at it. So if you're great on the golf course and you're building a business that way, great. If you can have all of these things running in the background, even better. So the whole point is not, you don't have to copy exactly what he's doing, but if you can pick up a few pointers, a few tips that will supplement your business, great. That's the point of this. So Pradeep, this is great information, man. I really appreciate you sharing.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think you just do what works for you. You got to try things and hope they work, because there's no magic to this. The people on the golf course could be doing quite well, and that's their thing. And I do my stuff online and, e-apps and everything else. So it's kind of to each his own, but I think it's good to share. I don't mind. But I think you just got to find what works for you. And, some people are not comfortable in certain situations. Some people are. So it's going to vary.
That's a great point. We have, Pradeep, real quick, we have one of our agents, I won't mention his first name, but his last name is Patel. And if you go into our database, he has written thousands and thousands of applications, and 90% of them, the last name is Patel. So right. You talk about working in what's comfortable for you in that environment and, running with your niche. It could be I'm a Jewish man. It could be at my temple, right? It could be a networking group. It could be at church. Whatever the case is, if that's working, great. But try some of these other things too, right? We all want to grow and pivot and transition. So why not? That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, because and to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah.
When I was at MetLife, my clientele were about 90% of Indian descent. now, because I'm online and I'm diversified, um, they're down to about 20.
Very interesting.
So my clientele is no longer primarily of Indian descent.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Very
Most
interesting.
of my clients are now American born, and not of Indian descent. So
Yeah. And
I think if you could offer a service, I don't think people care. They'll buy it from you if you do a good job and you're not ripping them off or doing some things you shouldn't. And that's what I think part of, what I do is, so I don't think I mentioned this before, but my mom is a Hindu priest.
oh,
I
didn't know
grew
that.
up where everything you do, you have to think, just going to embarrass the family.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it is a lot of pressure sometimes, but there's a lot of things you want to do, but you're like, nah, I can't do that. And I don't mean illegal, but it's like, but every step you take, I'm constantly thinking, okay, I can't screw this up. And so I think that's kind of one of the things that's kind of driven how I work and how I do things. And knock wood, I haven't ruined anyone's life yet with the stuff I sell. I mean, I figure with life insurance, you could only enhance someone's life, not ruin it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yep. No. You're doing a great job. And you know what I think for you too, and I don't know if you'll admit this or not, I'm sure you will, but what I noticed about you, Pradeep, since we met, almost 7 years ago, your work ethic is second to none. I mean, this man calls, emails, 11, 12 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning. He is nonstop, and it shows in your success. So I think that's huge, and you can probably thank your family for that as well. But it's second to none, my friend. I love seeing it because I'm like that too. Same exact thing. We're sending, me and Pradeep, just, off topic, are sending back emails. Hey, let's go over this topic and this question at, 11, 12 o'clock at night on a Monday, Tuesday. Like, it doesn't matter. We both are relentless because we want the great outcome, and it pays off. So there you have it.
Yep.
Okay. I want to shift gears for a second. I think this is important, and obviously you were kind of pre-pandemic ready, right, before this COVID-19 thing ever hit, which is very interesting. But I just want your take on, how things have changed maybe for you in your business, during, let's say, February, March of 2020, any changes, any pivoting? Have you changed your marketing approach? Any good stories, bad stories that came out of it? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed, I started getting a lot more leads the moment the pandemic hit. I'm not, not to joke about people dying, but I mean, we sell life insurance, so sometimes you have to do it. But I think, there's nothing like that to make people suddenly realize, oh crap, I should have done this years ago. And I think a lot of it is less to do with me and more to do with the pandemic in itself, in that it's kind of sort of scared the crap out of a lot of people who, life gets in the way and you kind of put things off and keep putting things off. And then suddenly you wake up and go, oh, I should do this. And so I think that's been one of the things that's driven it, just the pandemic. Not that I did anything differently. I've been a lot busier because of all the leads that are coming in. And a lot of it too is word of mouth, people telling other people. So that's been driving it. Well, obviously, from a carrier side, as you've seen, a lot of carriers have, I know with disability, previously, like let's use Principal for an example. They were only insuring up to 6,000 without a blood test, 6,000 per month. Since the pandemic, they have gone to 10,000. So if you're under a certain age, you could get up to $10,000 a month and not have to do a blood test because of COVID. And a lot of the other carriers have done. A lot of the other carriers have done the same. And then on the life side, I mean, you guys have always had the non-med options, so those are helping a lot. Where customers are, like using your website, the Insure Me Now platform that you have. Customers could not even talk to me. Just go. Like for certain customers now, if they're buying like 350, 400, 500, I just send them to the website. I'm like, click here and apply. You could print your policy and have it ready within an hour or two. So I think that's been some of the changes that are good. Obviously, if you've been diagnosed with COVID, there's some restrictions and things like that. But I don't know the specific details on underwriting for every carrier, but it's out there.
Yep. No, you're right. You're right. We're seeing some carriers that increased non-med limits to $5 million during the pandemic. And
right.
I think just a couple notes. I think that it's important to say, you look at, the so-called, dinosaur life insurance industry, right? And when I say life insurance, I'm also talking about disability and long-term care and critical illness. But I think what's interesting is this very slow dinosaur industry in the last, year, let's say, or even 10 months. They advanced more in the last 10 months than they have in the last 30 years, literally. All of a sudden, the companies that are, family owned, around for over 100 years, that have a 42-page application that you have to print or fax or mail, right? Now all of a sudden, hey, great news! We just launched our e-app, and our non-med limit went to $1 million instead of 100. So
right.
We're seeing, just like Pradeep mentioned, a lot of great improvements on the tech side. Yes, some carriers are restricted. Let's say anyone over age 70 will be postponed, but there are other carriers that haven't made one change as far as underwriting goes, like LSW, for example.
Right.
Everything's exactly the same. I also want to touch on this. I think part of what we're seeing, especially you, with more leads coming in, because you have to remember, we're seeing the effect from all of our agents. They're submitting illustration requests and product info. What's happening, it's not rocket science. Everyone's home. Everyone's around the dinner table. The kids are looking at mommy and daddy saying, oh, my gosh, if you get COVID and you die, mommy or daddy, are we going to be okay, right? And that's sparking a phone call or an email to the local life insurance guy or girl saying, hey, I need a quote. And I think
right.
that's kind of what's happening right now, and the effects that you're seeing and that we're seeing as an IMO.
Yeah. And going back to the non-med stuff quickly.
Yeah.
I don't know if I think there's going to be a race to offer more and more non-med. I don't know if you saw Penn Mutual's announcement yesterday. I don't want to break any news.
Yes. No. I do. They're one of our companies. Yep.
Right. So they're I think on March 1st, their ACE program is going to 7.5 non-med, 7.5 million.
It's unbelievable. The 5 million was the max before. Now 7.5. It's insane.
And it's funny how many clients I've had say to me, "Are you sure this is legitimate? Like, are they going to come back to me? Are you going to come back to me when I die and say, sorry, here's your money back. We're not paying the claim because we never did an exam." I'm like, no, it's legit. It's all legit. And one guy's like, "How do you know for sure?" And I go, "Well, why don't you die and we'll find out."
That'll prove itself.
But that's the only way to prove it. Yeah. But yeah.
No.
Go ahead.
You're exactly right. And by the way, and I also thought this was interesting. Pradeep said about how, when you're out there, talking about term insurance, and when you hear, these huge career companies that have term rates that are almost double the price of what we have to offer. usually the consumer, they'll say, oh, well, New York Life, they have such a big name, and, how do I know that this AIG or Banner, Legal in General, Protective, how do I know they're going to be around? Well, you look at like the AM Best ratings, right? Third party, independently owned company that rates all of these insurance companies. When you're talking about an A plus or A plus plus rated insurance company, they're neck and neck, right? You're comparing identical companies. So just because New York Life or MetLife, spent a fortune on advertising and everybody knows Snoopy, and no one's heard of, let's say, Protective Life, well, they're A plus rated companies. So it doesn't matter. The product, neck and neck. You're comparing apples to apples. The only difference, the premium with, let's say, one of our brokerage companies is $82, and New York Life or any one of those other companies is $148. Which direction do you want to go in, Mr. or Mrs. Client? It's
right.
A clear path, black and white answer. So I use that too.
Yeah, I typically tell clients, a lot of times clients would ask me, what should I look for in terms of a rating? And I usually say, if you're buying term insurance, I would recommend A or better. If you're buying whole life, I go A plus or better. I mean, that's just me. Everyone's got their own, whatever they feel comfortable advising people on. But that's kind of where I fall.
Yep, and I agree.
To me, with term insurance, you don't need, as long as it's an A-rated carrier that's semi-decent in size, you should be okay. So it's, that's kind of my take on that, on the rating.
And what's crazy? What else I just thought of, Pradeep? You're exactly right, by the way. But what's interesting is now in the brokerage world, we can offer most of those career shop contracts regardless. Even if someone did have to have, a whole life from one of these A++ rated companies, I won't mention names, we have them. We have access to them. So look how things changed over the years. Anyway, just crazy. All right, let's I know we're running a little behind, but this is such great info. I didn't want to interrupt. This is a great question. So I love this, especially you've been in the business, just over 20 years now, Pradeep, roughly?
Yeah.
So if you could go back, let's say to day one, 20 years ago, anything that you would have told the younger version, Pradeep, that would have made you even more successful, or anything you would have done a little differently that maybe some of our younger agents can learn from? Any tips?
Yes. So this is something I've kind of beaten myself up over for a long time. A lot of new agents need to get on the disability ball. A lot of them when people start out, everyone's trying to gather assets and stuff it into an annuity or an IUL. The thing with disability, the renewals are significant. From a financial perspective, you're better off growing your disability business a lot more than you are some of the other stuff. I mean, they're all important, but from a compensation perspective, I didn't really embrace disability until I was like 35 years old. And I go, damn, I should have done this from day one.
That's a great point. You're building an annuity for yourself, basically.
Right. And you kind of look at the renewals compared to a whole life or a universal, and then term insurance doesn't have renewals, so it doesn't matter. So if you're looking at it more of a sort of, what's in it for me kind of thing, while at the same time making sure you're doing what's right for your customer, because that's the most important. Disability is something that a lot of people ignore. And one of the things that really aggravates me is when I see certain career shop agents who don't have a disability product. Their whole idea of disability is, let's put a waiver on a whole life plan. And there's no mention of a disability product for this customer, so their income is not protected. But they have a nice whole life that they're paying for, and it's got a waiver on it. So that I think that's something I would say, looking back, it's something a lot of people ignore when they're starting out. It's and not to give Northwestern Mutual any credit, but they do push disability a lot. And to me, a lot of times you think about it, sometimes I think disability is more important than life insurance. Yeah, we're all going to die at some point, but if you get disabled, you're screwed. I mean, odds are you're not getting Social Security. Where's your paycheck going to come from? So I think, a lot of people are ignoring, but again, I'm not blaming them. It depends on their training and where they're coming from historically.
It's a great point.
So that's something I would go ahead.
Yeah, no, you're right. If you're a younger professional, especially this day and age, disability is as important as having car insurance, driving an automobile every day. It's
right.
The same thing. And the waiver that Pradeep was talking about, sure, that waives the premium on the whole life plan, but what's going to supplement your income when you can't work for a year and 9 months, right? That's what he's referring to. So that's a great point too. And you're exactly right. And it opens doors to other products, as we know.
Right.
It's a great hook.
Right. I mean, I think, a lot of times when I sell disability, there's always a term that comes with it.
Yep, that's right.
So
that's right.
It's, it goes hand in hand. It's the two things you're protecting: if you died or if you got disabled.
No, that's great. And by the way, we have, as you know, we have most of the top DI products and carriers. So if you need any assistance with that, you let us know. Or I said it in the beginning too, if you're interested in working with Pradeep, he has a small team, and if it's a possible good fit, I'll make the introduction, and then you can all decide on that. But he's available for training as well. I just have a couple questions left. I know we're running a little behind, but just a few things I want to point out. I think that's very important. Did you, and I'm just curious, especially growing up in the business, 20 years now, did you have, was there a mentor that you went to or still go to for guidance, or was it a parent or family member or maybe a GA they hooked you up with in the beginning? Anyone that really helps you on a personal and business level?
I think when I was at MetLife, I had a manager that I was very close with. She's retired since, but I don't still go to her because she's not in the business anymore. But I've been, and I think I mentioned earlier, I've been one of those people. I think when you're an immigrant, that whole mentor sort of motivation thing doesn't. And I shouldn't speak for everyone. But
right.
I came here with practically nothing. So it's just been push. And I feel like when I was starting out, I just had to look up my bank account, and that was enough motivation for me. Because
I love it.
There wasn't much in there. So it was, when you're first starting out, it's like, okay, I need to get working. I need to do things. So I've never been one of those people that respond. Like, I'm never I don't watch podcasts of, motivational speakers and get pumped. It's not my thing. But from product perspective, there are people that I go to, sometimes you guys, sometimes I have some folks up here that I talk to in terms of insurance products. But from a personal perspective, I'm not much for motivation. But again,
well, Pradeep, you told me you love you said you love the Bill Levinson Experience podcast. You told me you listened to
I do.
Come on.
No, I do listen to it. But I was talking more along the lines of you're never going to find me in a Tony Robbins class or one of those.
Yes, like the rah-rah stuff.
Right. I'm probably the least likely person to join a cult because I can't follow people.
Yeah.
um,
No, but you know what? It shows that mentality. It's like there's no option. I mean, you're going to make it or you're going to die trying. I mean, that's it. There's no middle ground, right? And that's it.
right.
Yep.
Right.
No. Obviously, it's working, and it has worked for you. So that's awesome. And I always say, like, whatever it is for you, if it's the mentor or a parent or a GA upline, or books or podcast, fine. If it works and you have the right frame of mind and good energy, and people want to be around you, you're a good person. Great. I'm all about it. As long as it doesn't do you any harm and it's not illegal, I think you should jump in head first, whatever works for you. That's my outlook on that.
Yeah. And
okay.
Quickly going back to the question about, what would you tell some younger people that are starting out? I think one of the things before you do anything, make sure you think it through. And is this something you would offer to your own brother or sister, if you're selling a product or if you're offering some advice? Is this the same advice you would give to a relative that you have to face every day? And if it's not, you probably shouldn't do it.
That is a great point, Pradeep. I love that. And remember, if you don't do the right thing, okay, and Pradeep's advice is obviously do the right thing. Would you sell this to your brother, sister, mom, dad, kids? Okay, you're going to be exposed, right? There's going to be a client that's going to get upset. They're going to go into one of these chat rooms or forums or Google reviews, and everybody is going to know what you did. So it's not worth it just to look for that, that shortcut big commission check, right? Do the right thing and it will pay off. And, a good example of that, I remember years and years ago, I'm sure you remember this, Pradeep, they had those third-party banks that were, usually on an island somewhere, and they had these shady premium finance companies and shells they built, and we would have attorneys calling us saying, hey, we want to structure a premium finance product. It turned out to be there were lawsuits everywhere. It was it didn't line up. And thank God, we had many opportunities to get involved and, get a check for $400,000 or $500,000. And we always said, you know what, something just doesn't feel right. And look what happened. A lot of agents went to jail because of that. And it was just a crazy time.
Yeah, if you had done it, I would have seen you on American Greed or something.
Exactly. That's right. That's right. And the point is, you do the right thing and it will pay. If it doesn't feel right, you wouldn't sell it to your family member. It doesn't sit right in your gut. Don't do it. It's not worth it. I mean, I'll just tell you that right now. And don't learn the hard way. We're both giving you advice with this. Okay. All right. So just 2 questions left, and then we'll wrap this up. Pradeep, I'm always stressing to everyone, like at our expo, which I know you've been down to, and hopefully we can have those soon in the near future, on our weekly trainings. I'm always pushing like how important it is to have, a website, a CRM tool, it could be a social media page, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever it is. How important do you think that is to being a successful insurance agent these days?
I think the website's very important, but the problem I see sometimes is, people spend money, they have a nice website, but if no one's going to it, then it really doesn't matter.
Good point.
You got to drive traffic somehow, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's word of mouth, or whatever else. But I think it is. And the other thing I'm seeing, and I mean, you know this with the Insure Me Now Direct platform that you have, where people are more and more not interested in talking to you in person. And this goes back to my earlier comment about, I'm not looking to be your friend and going to your kid's soccer game. I think people are like, I have enough friends. I just simply want to buy some insurance. And I think these websites are, where it's going in terms of the ability to just click and buy. But I think certain products or certain people are always going to need an agent, because the drill. It's like You have people who are applying and they decide not to tell you about their marijuana use, or they don't tell you about, the surgery they had. And then after we apply, then you find out, oh, you are taking gabapentin or whatever medication.
That's right.
So that's a problem. So like, for instance, I have a website, I'm not going to name it, but I have on my website that where customers could go and buy insurance instantly and not talk to me. I have a whole disclaimer of if any of these situations apply to you, you should be talking to a person. You should not be on this website, because that's my disclaimer. Because it's not ever going to be ideal for everyone. There's always going to be a large segment of the population that needs to talk to a broker. That's my belief. I could be wrong, but
I couldn't agree more.
But I doubt that the broker or the agent's going to go away anytime soon. I mean, there'll be less of us, but you want to be ready, when that time comes, in terms of, having the tools available to utilize. So you could, provide your customers with that sort of an experience where, if you want $500,000 of life insurance because you're boarding a plane tomorrow, well, yeah, you could get that. I mean, it's not going to work for everyone again, but if you're super healthy, you could get your policy and printed within 20 minutes. So
I couldn't agree more.
It's out there. And it's coming.
I couldn't agree more. And I think I don't care if you're 18 or 32 or 78, if you want to grow and build your business now and in the future, you need to, yes, have your website, have your Insure Me Now direct products, because what's going to happen is Aunt Sally, the client you've had for 20 years, she's never going anywhere else. She's going to refer her niece to you, and they're a younger, healthier family, and they need a $100,000 term policy. They don't want to talk to you on the phone for an hour or meet you in their kitchen at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night, right? They're going to say, hey, does he have a website? What is it? I'm going to run a quote. I want to apply, get approved in 7 minutes, and be done with this. They're not up for building the relationships. The younger generation is used to everything now, instant, click a button, done. So just like what Pradeep said, yes, you have to have your website, and yes, you're available for appointments on a phone, on a WebEx, whatever the case is. But if you want to just click, point, shoot, print, be done, this is also available for you. Have both sides of the fence. And I invested years ago in all the technology to be able to do exactly that. And Pradeep's one of the agents that hit this thing full steam ahead. He's got everything set up on both sides. And that's another reason why he's so successful during a very challenging time in this world. And that's why I wanted him on this podcast, especially the first episode of the year. I wanted you all to get some nuggets. Okay, Pradeep, before we wrap up, anything that you want to add or share before we put a bow on this?
No, I think, hopefully 2021 is better than last year in terms of, and I'm not talking about, sales. I'm talking about, the environment and everything else that's going on. But I think for younger people that are now starting out, if you got to go through the career channels to get trained, then that's fine. But, be aware that once you have some experience, you really want to try to explore being independent, and that way you have access to a lot of products you could offer your customers instead of just pushing, one company's product. I think that's important, because you're ultimately, in my opinion, you're not doing what's right for your customer if you've just got 3 tools in your box and there could be 40.
Yep, and that's going to come back to bite you. It happens every time. So, yeah, that's a great point. I just want to say a couple more things, and then we are finished. Very important lessons here, takeaways that you might want to jot down. I just think we all heard for the last hour, right, that it doesn't matter what your background is, ethnicity, how old or young you are, male, female, how much money you have in your bank account. Pradeep is proof that you can overcome that with great work ethic and doing the right thing for the client, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. It's taken him over 20 years to build and grow, right? But I think we've all just witnessed that doing the right thing comes back to you. Otherwise, you're exposed with the internet, okay? The whole fake it till you make it thing, gone, 1985. Do not do that. Do the right thing. Do what's best for the client. You have to know the basics of technology, especially in this new world. You don't have to be Bill Gates, okay, but know enough to be dangerous. If you're interested in working with Pradeep, let us know. We can make the introduction if it's a good fit. But without further ado, Pradeep, that was amazing. One of the best ever. Thank you so much for taking the time. I hope things only get bigger and better for you, and I hope that the worst of this whole COVID-19 is behind us and things get better. I can't wait till that happens. With that said, have a great January, an awesome 2021, hopefully, and we will see you again in February. Take care. Thanks again, and good selling.
Thank you for joining us for the Bill Levinson Experience. Please feel free to share this podcast with anyone you think would be interested. You may also visit levinsonandassociates.com and all of Bill Levinson's social media pages for more information.